Okay, this is the recording for the archive for the June 9, 2018 Sabbath service, PM to the U.S. It normally would be AM, and later PM to the United Kingdom, to the UK. And we'll be live only on Facebook Live. This recording will go into the archive. Let's see if we're going to make it onto Facebook Live with brand new updated live streaming thing to make, supposed to make that work. Let's see what happens. Greetings to those of you watching on Facebook Live. Welcome to Sabbath Services for this 26th day of the third month on God's Hebrew sacred calendar. Now, those of you who tuned in on the archive heard me say this is June 9, 2018 on the pagan Roman calendar, and I'm only now referencing the Hebrew calendar, referencing it first to those of you on Facebook Live, because that is the calendar we'll be going by in the future after Jesus Christ returns, sets up the kingdom of God that he has qualified to usher in and restore after having conquered Satan in what was the supreme battle for world rulership. Now, many ancient nations today, from time to time, do battles for world rulership. They've done that for millennia. 3-4 millennia, the Assyrians have been wanting world dominion and rulership going way back to the time when the Chaldeans, the Babylonians first had it, then lost it, lost it over to the Medes and Persians, and the Greeks had it for a while, and then Rome has had it for 6 dynasties over a 1260-year continuous reign of what was world dominion. Then they lost it for a time, and even Gentiles got in there. Well, let me backtrack. Even when Rome had it, that was Gentiles. But even Rome was only a professing Christian culture. So what I'm trying to say is when the Caliphate came in, which was not the same as your quote-unquote professing Christian Roman emperor, who had a totally different kind of religious backing, the Islamic religious backing, it's the same thing. It's all part of the Gentile dominions of world rulership and wanting world rulership. And that's what happened about 600 AD when, if what's true by the men who worked in the Vatican basement, who was part of the Jesuit assemblage, revealing the secret doctrines and documents of the Catholic Church from their libraries in the basement of the Vatican. The Catholic Church, the Vatican, was very much involved with creating the culture, let's just call it what it's set up to be, a religion of Islam. And, those who prescribe to that religion are not, by definition, they're called Muslims. And the definition of a Muslim is a person who practices Islam. That can be anybody. It can be any race, any culture, can be anybody. So it's not like racism if you speak against somebody who's doing Islamic practices that are not healthy to the life of a non-Muslim. And, if they follow the book they call their Bible, the Quran, it tells those people to kill infidels. So a full practicing Muslim is not your friend if you're a professing Christian of any kind, because they're told to kill you. You, as a professing Christian, are an infidel to them. All right, that's not my subject today. I don't know why I got into that, but we're talking about world dominion, and so there's struggles for in this world who among the human flesh can get on top and be in charge of world dominion, who can do that. But after Jesus Christ returns, just at the time when mankind otherwise would have annihilated all flesh from off the face of this earth, were it not for the promise Christ makes to intervene and save mankind physically. We're not talking about spiritual salvation, but to save mankind from annihilating mankind and all flesh, meaning all animal life as well, from off the face of the earth. But when Christ returns, he's going to set up and restore. As I've mentioned, he's already won the battle. He already conquered Satan in that supreme battle for world rulership. So he's got it in the bag. Christ has just held it up. Our Father has just held that up. Our Father who decides the day and the hour when Christ will return. And preceding that, we go through a 3.5-year period of the 5th, 6th, and 7th seal. Right now should be watching the first 4 seals, because that's what Jesus Christ instructed us, commanded us. For those who understand it, who are called to the spring harvest, we are commanded and instructed to be watching the first 4 seals that are active now. They're the only ones of the 7 seals. The first 4 are the only seals of the 7 seals that are active now, and boy, are they ever active. And we should be watching them and praying about the people affected by them. False religion, the white horse, the red horse, depicting the second seal depicted by a red horse in Revelation that Christ described in plain language in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, as war and rumors of war and the uniting of Europe that we're watching for. The third seal depicted by a black horse in Revelation that Christ described in those Gospels, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, as famine. And the fourth seal depicted in Revelation by a pale horse. And the pale, the word used for pale is kind of like chlorine, like a pale green color, kind of a sicky green color. And Christ described it in plain language as loimus, as meaning disease epidemic, pestilence, the plagues of Egypt, and more. And also that on that fourth seal we hook, because it falls between the third and fifth seal. He said there would be seismus, meaning seismic activity, major earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, any commotions in the air, commotions on the ground of a seismic nature, which includes your gale force winds, tornadoes, tsunami, tornadoes, hurricanes. What else you call the big ferocious winds? What am I leaving out? Typhoons. And then your commotions on the ground, your volcanic eruptions, your tsunamis, your earthquakes on the ground, floods, fires, any kind of seismic commotion in the air, on the ground. That's all part of that fourth seal that we're to be watching, and people affected by it, dying by it, being injured by it, suffering by it, hurting by it because of false religion, and in some cases being killed by false religions, as will happen again, as it happened during the crusade. But this time when it happens again, it's going to be much bigger. It's going to make what happened during the crusades, referenced by Fox's Book of Martyrs, look just like a drop in the bucket compared to what's coming. I'm happy to see, I keep looking over to the side, and I should bring us in tighter for those of you watching the closed captions. For some reason, my buttons aren't working here. So see if I can find an alternate way to zoom in to a little bit tighter shot. I think this one, if I can bring this one tighter, let's see. Okay, bring it tighter, but we just lost that screen. All right. I'm having to reprogram everything, and I'll tell you what we're going to get to in just a moment. I wanted the closed captions to be larger, more visible for those of you who've asked me to provide these closed captions. I've moved the closed captioning encoder. I've moved our video players, except for one I have on a new machine. Our old machine which is a very powerful machine. Let's see what's in that. What's in that thing that we were playing media from? It's the Lenovo i5. It's got a Core i5 in it, but it went south on us. Maybe I shouldn't use that term. I'm in the South. Hot and humid here today, but it started malfunctioning on us. And I, thankfully, some of you know I had a budget crunch during the last 3 or 4 weeks. We've been off. I've been able to get on top of that. Part of that was caused by several kind of hit you from the left side situations. Otherwise, I've got this worked so that on my 2 incomes, generally speaking, I can cover everything. But I get hit by a couple of surprises. One, we put in a second cable line, and I did the arithmetic, said, okay, I can afford this, but for a short while, I'll turn off the first cable because the cable company was offering a promotion if I put it on another site, which my trailer, 300 feet south of this house in the field back of me, qualifies for another site. And I got a very promotional price. So I kind of lowered expenses for my budget when I did that. However, the installer left the cable wire that he hooked up from the telephone pole in the neighbor's field next to me over here. We came in from a different direction from the middle of the field, and he tied it on post, dropped it down on the ground, and a cable company cable burying team and grounding team were supposed to come out within a week and bury the cable and ground it. Well, weeks went by. My horse didn't like the idea that there's that wire dangling in his path, because even though they left it kind of semi-curled up on the ground, they still ran it on over to the trailer and ran it inside. So it's all one contiguous piece, but they hadn't grounded it yet. Storm came up, blew out the, what they call a modem. It's really just, what people are calling modems today are really only a cable to Ethernet adapter. Because what modem means is not what today's modems do, but terms get attached to things, and they just, that's what we're going to call it. Anyway, a modem, as we understand it today, was attached to the wire, inside the trailer. Horse and the storm, it wasn't grounded as the cable company was supposed to do. I bought the grounding rod, drove it in with a sledgehammer myself. They were supposed to come out and tie their own connections, grounding, splitter, and all that to it. Storm comes up, knocks out the modem. I really wasn't using it anyway. I should have had all that unplugged, but as it happened, this is one of the things that happened. A horse gets in the cable, messes up the horse's, cable's got wire in it. It messes up the horse's front right leg. I have a video that I think I'll post it on my personal page because I've heard from a lot of you that said, Steve, are you okay? Are you okay? What happened to you? Some of you didn't see, I guess, my explanation that I'd be off for a few weeks when I had to shut off the second cable. Instead of paying the cable fees, I needed to pay for a vet and attention to the horse. So poor horse was hurting. And I decided after the horse injured his leg, I said, I'm going to bury this cable myself. So I dug a trench and I videotaped myself digging the trench and shoving the wire through the piping that I ran underground and getting up on the ladder and shoving it up on the pipe that I curved with a 90 degrees so rain wouldn't come pouring down the pipe. Put music to it because I thought this would be cool. I didn't realize while I'm digging with the pickaxe that and next to the trailer on that stretch of the trench for the underground, putting the cabling underground, which is the cable company was supposed to do. I paid for installation. That was supposed to be part of the installation fee. But to protect the horse, I did that. But from further damage, I got that wire underground. And in my video, as I'm facing the camera and digging alongside the trailer, you've heard of somebody photo bombing your video or your picture, something happening behind you that the subject of the photograph is not aware of that steals all the attention. From behind the trailer, which is to my side of me on one side, and there's open area on the other side of me, the injured horse comes limping into the picture very slowly. His nose in the picture first, then his head, then front part of his body, then the whole length of his body, and he's just limp. She is a female horse. She is just limping along through the video into the picture, and she's a big horse. She's a quarter horse, big horse. So even though she's in the background, she takes up a big portion of the picture where I'm standing there pickaxing, just running my camera. And when I saw that happen in the picture, I thought, well, that'll be good to show people the injury to my horse, for those of you that were praying about the whole situation. And, vet fees are expensive, and you can't let an animal go undone. I contacted the cable company. I tried to. The Spectrum took over Bright House in this local area. They also took over Time Warner and Charter, put them all under their umbrella. But every time I call, I wind up through the call to Spectrum, and they say, oh, you're a Bright House, and we don't have that database worked in yet. And it's long, frustrating calls. And once my cable was cut off, they cut it off because I took the money I would have paid the cable bill with to take care of the horse. And so this big cable bill runs up over a couple of months, along with installation fees. And then they cut off the cable. So I have no cable at all for 3 or 4 weeks, whatever, I think the time, since about May 19, I think it was. And, I'm sorry, those of you listening by closed caption, the closed caption device seems to, once in a while it hangs up, but it looks like it's going again now. I think I have to stay facing the microphone and punch my words out a little stronger. But here's the long and short of it. Finally, I got a hold of somebody at the top of the company. They sent out one of their big brass, and he made sure some people came out, put in the grounding connection, tied it to the grounding rod that I bought, and sledgehammered into the ground, and finally got service back on yesterday. I had to go pay the bill. However, if they keep their word, they're saying they will apply a credit so that my start date, instead of being more than 2 months ago, will just be yesterday. And one of the big brass guys was saying, well, he can't make the decision, but the installer people have to, who created the problem by leaving the cable unburied and just lying there for your horse to trip in. And that man owned 9 horses himself. But he said you have to negotiate with them. And they actually were so nice that even though he said they ought to pay knock off the they ought to give you a check for the installation and a check for the couple of months, but then I have to go pay it. I paid it before I hadn't got any money from the installation company, but they say they're going to get the company to just adjust the bill and do my start date as of yesterday. Anyway, those of you wondered where I am and what happened, am I okay? Tammy, Daniel, I really appreciated your checking with me. My sister sent me a heating pad because, climbing up on the roof, I'll have to show you on my personal page tomorrow, maybe, all the concrete blocks that after digging a trench, I hauled up onto the roof. And I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so, I don't know, and the mental agony of trying to deal with the horse and the charges a vet can make on you, and then getting behind on your bills because of it. And once I paid the cable bill, I used money that would have been my electric bill, so I'm behind on that. But I have a source for that money, my own source. I should be able to take care of that. But it means I'm doing a very tight belt. I've lost a lot of weight. I had my muscles aching and hurting. Brethren, we pray for one another. I appreciate those of you who have been praying for me, who've been concerned about me. I'm okay. I'm a tough old dude. One of you even commented about me hitting my head on the concrete and said, after smashing the concrete, you're probably out because of that. No, that healed a long time ago. I'm fine. It's just I hadn't fixed, the concrete's still smashed. I still fix the concrete. My hard head is fine. All right, here's what we're going to do today. Let me come back to this shot so I can just show you the screen. I've got First Thessalonians pulled up. I'm going to read that whole chapter. It's only 5, that whole book, First Thessalonians. It's only 5 or 6 chapters. Let me reach behind the screen and grab my Bible. And I'll have the text on the screen, full screen for you as I read that. It's a fabulous book. I'm reading it because one of my friends who preaches in a certain fellowship from here sent out an email saying he's going to cover that today. And so, Dave, not to steal your thunder, we have a different audience, I'm sure. I'm going to read the 5 chapters of First Thessalonians. I think I can do that within a half hour. I'll still have time to drive over to his fellowship and hear David cover First Thessalonians. But I read it last night after I saw his email saying he was going to cover that today. And I said, wow, this is not only a fabulous instruction for us, but it's one that the apostle who wrote First Thessalonians, that would have been Paul, and Silvanus and Timotheus, unto the church of the Thessalonians, which is in God the Father and in the Lord Jesus Christ. They wrote that and said at the end of this chapter, I charge you by the Lord that this epistle be read unto all the holy brethren. And that includes the spring brethren, you and me, of the spring harvest today. That's what we're going to do in a few moments. We're going to read through First Thessalonians, and I don't have a way, even though I've got this new media player, I don't have the audio connections into it. We use a special way to pull the audio through a USB type card. I don't even know if it's going to work in this new small machine. I hope it is, because it's quiet. The old stuff I had was noisy. You're not hearing that background hiss of fans. I have a new microphone also because of the potential of a new radio program. Now, I don't properly have it run through the DBX 286 that I purchased along with the Shure SB7M. Some of you are familiar with that, because this mic for the public radio program I've been asked to host has the best sound for that. I may go back to the EVRE27 we've been using, one of the standard public radio mics, and set this up just for the public radio show. But for now, this microphone is set up for the public radio. It's set up on the same system. I'll do that public radio program from the same studio. Although the old host who retired has decided to stay on a little longer again. I've actually been thankful for that. And that's another story. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, I had some additional expenses. A car my brother gave me. We paid the registration in December. Instead of running the whole year, that sprung up on me in April. I wasn't expecting, and I made the mistake of loaning somebody some money a few months ago. That I said, hey, this money's earmarked to pay a certain annual bill. I can let you have it if you can assure me that you're going to have it back to me. Well, yeah, we'll have it back. That didn't happen. So, when you loan money, you just about have to say, this may not come back. Because that happens sometimes. And that money didn't come back, and then I wasn't able to pay the registration on time, and then they hit me with a penalty that just about doubled that. So anyway, brother, and that's why I hit a budget crunch. Some unanticipated things happened. And don't any of you ask me for a loan. I got 16 years worth of debt to pay off at 30% interest. I'm working to pay that off, and this is not, I'm not a bank or a lending institution, so forget that. Those of you who've been doing your Holy Day offerings here, in the past, you see me in a budget crunch, you don't need to ask, hey, can I help? Just do it. They've done it before. Just apply it. This is a ministry. So, but we don't pitch it on any other days than holy days. But we recently had a holy day. I wasn't able to run a telecast that day, so nobody responded to that, and I had to cover what usually that period of time covers annual bills. I had to cover that myself. We're back on the air. We're going to read 1 Thessalonians. And I hope you're doing well. Don't worry about me. This kid smashes concrete with his hard head. The concrete is still broken up and smashed, but my head is healed. Thank you, dear Lord. And let's go to 1 Thessalonians. I'm probably going to do this. We're going to pull the screen that has 1 Thessalonians in. Full screen for you. Move the lower third.